Hello and welcome to CLEA'S World. I am Clea, and today I would like to share with you more of the information I've received from the 25th dimension during my last BQH Beyond Quantum Healing session. I will be reading from a transcript, and when I refer to Lorraine, I'm speaking of the hypnotist who's asking me questions I've prepared in advance of the session. And when I refer to me, I'm speaking of myself under hypnosis, which means that the answers are coming from the 25th dimension. Before we move forward, I'd like to ask you though to please subscribe to my channel and also give this video a thumbs up. It really does help me. And do leave me a comment below to let me know if this stuff resonates with you. I'm really very, very curious to see where everybody's at, especially during these very interesting times. All right, I'm going to start reading here. Lorraine. How come the watchers are wiser, quote unquote, than others and know when they must call in help? Is this their training? Do they vow not to be too lost in the game so that they can call it out if it's going south? Me. Yes, so yes, they are not wiser, obviously, so that's why it was in quotes. It was just for lack of a better term. We set up the system to where we have essences that basically choose to play a game in a different way, which might be a little bit detached, where they don't forget that they cannot get too lost in the game because they have a job to do, or they decide that they're going to get lost in a game, but there's always going to be a part of them that is doing this work in the background. And so in that sense, yes, they are just never so lost in the game that they cannot do their duties, basically. So they're always on duty in that sense. And so, yes, we do set up guidelines for calling a game out, very simply in the sense that we are energy and we know when energy is getting too unbalanced. We know the range within which something has to stay for the game to be maintained. I mean, by now we have not only had a lot of experience because we've been doing this for a long time, but we just know what polarity we wanted in this matrix. And so the watchers basically remain like a monitoring system where they feel that the energy is getting too unbalanced, and their job, they have no other job but to alert basically the people that have ways of, they can alert, well, they alert everybody. So they can alert the civilization, they can alert the 12,000, basically they sound the alarm bell. And at that point, depending on what the civilization is willing to do, that's when the 12,000 might help out in different ways, or, basically again, we're trying to avoid having to take a game down. And obviously the system works because we haven't had to do it many times. So do they get training? It's just a decision. It's they make this decision. And of course, as they do these things for, again, we'll use time, for long periods of time, they know what we're looking for to maintain, to maintain this polarity. Lorraine, thank you. How are they chosen and by who? Me. They choose, excuse me, me. They choose themselves. Nobody, there is nobody. It's not a hierarchy. There is nobody outside of themselves who choose them. They choose themselves. They choose. They are interested in a particular experience. They're willing to do a particular type of job, and so they do it. And other people might have exactly the same skills. They just don't want to do that job. They want to focus on something else. That's all. It's like, who chooses an engineer? It's the person who decides to become an engineer and be an engineer. Lorraine, thank you. Do they have things they can do before calling in the other 12,000 members? Or perhaps they start by calling in a subsection of the 12,000 first? Or they ask a civilization to recalibrate first, and then if it all fails, then they go to plan B? Me. Again, they don't ask anyone to do anything. What they do is, their job is to alert the multiverse, because everybody's alerted in the multiverse to a situation. At that point, everybody springs into action. So it might be the civilization, if they're willing to recalibrate, if they're capable of recalibrating, which of course, every civilization is capable, except at some point, it might go so overboard that it's really not happening, that the balance is just lost. And every time you try to recalibrate, it gets lost again, which is something that we have had happening over here. They also don't call in a subsection of the 12,000. What they do is they alert. The 12,000 being part of the multiverse, they also get the alarm, right? They hear the alarm, if you want to think of it in those terms, and they respond. And what happens is that the 12,000 then might send in maybe one person to do reconnaissance work, or they might send in a few people to walk around and see what's going on. They might already have people on that planet that tells them, hey, this is what's going on. I've been trying to, spread the light, balance this, balance that, because we're always doing this work in the background, even by ourselves. But then, it's not working. And all of a sudden, everybody comes in. So it's just the 12,000 and will do whatever they have to do, depending on the situation, because they might be on a different planet, focus on a different reality. But generally speaking, when you have a situation like this, it's been brewing for a long time. So you might have more and more of the 12,000 coming in to fix things. And you do different things, like, for example, resets, or you could, again, change your vibration so as to affect the planet. We already described one light worker or one of the 12,000 can change the vibration of an entire continent. But this might just not be sufficient. And at that point, you will have more and more people coming in. So for example, when the alarm was rung here on planet Earth at this, about 300 years now, about 300 years ago now, that we had tried doing things and they just weren't working, that's when all the 12,000 started coming in. There might have been some here. They're telling me, were there some in the beginning? And this was me asking the 21st. Sometimes I ask a question as well while I'm under hypnosis if I'm trying to understand. So I was asking, were there some light workers here in the beginning before the alarm was rung? And they were answering, not many. They're telling me there weren't many here in the beginning who were just living here. And then as soon as the alarm was rung, basically everybody reincarnated here. And we've been here since, working on this, because again, technically you don't have to be incarnated here to be working on this, but it just makes a difference because again, we can use our vibration to modulate a lot of things. And we were holding up, we were trying to make sure things were happening on a certain schedule. So we were holding up things that would have collapsed and also collapsing things that otherwise would have still been standing. But yeah, so basically it's not, the watchers just watch and sound the alarm. That's their entire job. And then basically there are other people, others that take over, based on what their job is. For example, in this case, Clea, and we've discussed this before, Clea has been a watcher here for a long time. And so she's one of the ones that basically called in the others and said, okay, this is not, we can't fix this. Lorraine. In what circumstances do the 12,000 act together, or do they also go on individual missions or small group missions? Me. Yes, so we just answered this. Yes, they might be spread out in different places doing their own thing. And when they see that something is being unbalanced, they might try to balance it on their own. The light workers are very powerful. Like all of us are very powerful. But the light workers always remember their duties and they're always doing things to help rebalance, integrate or recalibrate. And so, yeah, they could be somewhere in small groups and it might be all that's needed to recalibrate something. They do come in if they're being called, if there is a place that needs to be recalibrated. Lorraine. Thank you. I like this question. Claire would like to know, what does the typical resume of a 12,000 and watcher look like? And what kind of training do they get? Me. Again, the training is simply that we are all actually capable of telling what a balanced polarity is supposed to be. And simply training means that these people, besides obviously being interested in the job, they've been doing this for a long time. Again, what we consider time. They've been doing this many times, let's say, and because of that, they are very adept. They know exactly what will have a higher probability of working and what not. This one, we say that we tried to save it here. We've done many things. We even came up with the idea of resets, right? It just didn't work. And that's what a resume looks like, is that you might have done this many times. However, if a new person wanted to do this, they could, because at the end of the day, not every light worker is the same. We all have different skill sets or different areas of expertise, in the sense of that's what we like to work on. And so, yeah, I mean, new people could come in with different skill sets and they start doing things. And then they're like, you know, they build a resume and they were laughing. So same with watchers. It's simply, again, is the willingness of the soul, of the essence, to not be completely lost in the game, that you're still watching for certain things. Lorraine. Thank you. Claire would like to know, how did the 12,000 get trained? Does it mean that there were no 12,000 right from the beginning, since they had to first come into the matrix and get the experience? If so, how does this work, since they were the ones who created the dimensions on the planets? Me. Yeah, so there is no time. I mean, Claire is using the concept of time as in training takes years or decades or centuries or whatever it is. It doesn't. Again, you don't have to have training when you come in. You have to have a willingness. And of course, you have to have the right personality. Otherwise, you wouldn't even volunteer. And so in that sense, it's not, I mean, yes, the 12,000 existed from the beginning, because once again, we explained this, once the spark was given by the 25th to create the matrix, there were the worker bees. So yeah, but no, you don't have to have training. It doesn't take a long time in terms of time, you know, if we're thinking of time. It's really because we are so powerful. And again, all of us are powerful. Everything is instantaneous. So you don't have to have training. Who would be training you anyway? I mean, there is nobody else outside of us. And they were laughing. So I'm gonna end this video here on the 25th laughing, because you know, once we get to end on a high note. And I want to thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Take care, everybody.